Taelon Peter joins Spurs. Can the former Pacers guard win a roster spot? The San Antonio Spurs are making another move to strengthen their training camp competition, and this one could be a lot more interesting than it looks on the surface. The Spurs have agreed to an Exhibit 10 contract with former Indiana Pacers guard Taelon Peter, giving the young guard another opportunity to prove that he belongs in the NBA. And make no mistake, this is not a guaranteed roster spot. Peter is coming to San Antonio with something to prove. He was drafted by Indiana with the 54th overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft after an unusual college journey that took him from Tennessee Tech to Arkansas Tech and eventually to Liberty University. At Liberty, Peter established himself as an extremely efficient scorer and one of the best three-point shooters in Conference USA. Now, just 1 year after hearing his name called in the NBA draft, Peter is fighting to keep his professional career moving forward. So why did the Spurs make this move? And does Peter actually have a realistic chance of making San Antonio's regular season roster? Let's break it all down. First, let's go back to where this story began. Peter entered the 2025 NBA draft after a remarkable senior season at Liberty. He averaged 13.7 points and 4.0 rebounds per game while shooting an impressive 57.8% from the field and 45.3% from three-point range. That shooting ability was one of the biggest reasons NBA teams became interested. NBA.com described Peter as an efficient scoring guard with a particular strength as a spot-up shooter. His 45.3% three-point shooting at Liberty showed that he had legitimate range, while his athleticism and versatility gave teams another reason to take a chance on him. The Indiana Pacers ultimately selected him with the 54th pick. That made Peter the highest NBA draft selection in Liberty basketball history and the first Liberty player drafted in 40 years. And interestingly enough, San Antonio was one of the teams Peter worked out for before the draft. So there was already some familiarity between Peter and the Spurs organization. After being drafted, Peter began the difficult transition from college basketball to the NBA. His rookie season with Indiana was a mixture of opportunity and inconsistency. Peter appeared in 38 NBA games, averaging 4.5 points, 1.6 rebounds and 1.1 assists in 12.6 minutes per game. He shot 38% from the field and 32.8% from three-point range. Those numbers don't jump off the page. But context matters. Peter was a second-round rookie trying to establish himself on an NBA roster, and his biggest calling card, three-point shooting, simply wasn't as reliable as it had been at Liberty. That 32.8% mark from three was a significant drop from his 45.3% college production. And for a player whose NBA value is heavily connected to shooting, that difference matters. But Peter didn't simply disappear after the season. He continued to compete in the Summer League. And that's where the story became interesting again. According to RealGM, Peter averaged 10.4 points, 1.8 rebounds and 1.8 assists over 5 games in the 2026 NBA Summer League, shooting 50% from the field and 35.7% from three. The numbers supplied in the original report describe his Summer League performance somewhat differently, but the larger point remains the same. Peter showed enough offensive efficiency to keep himself on NBA teams' radar. And then came another major development. The Pacers moved on from him in July. RealGM lists Indiana as ending Peter's two-way contract on July 20th, with Peter becoming a free agent 2 days later. That could have been a setback. Instead, Peter has quickly found another NBA opportunity. And now it's San Antonio. The Spurs have signed Peter to an Exhibit 10 contract, which essentially gives him a chance to compete during training camp without guaranteeing him a place on the regular season roster. That distinction is extremely important. Because the Spurs aren't bringing Peter in with a promise. They're bringing him in with a challenge. Earn it. San Antonio is entering the 2026-27 season with extremely high expectations after going 62-20 during the 2025-26 regular season and reaching the NBA Finals. The foundation of the team remains superstar Victor Wembanyama, while the Spurs also have an increasingly deep collection of young talent. That means the final roster spots are going to be difficult to win. With Peter's addition, San Antonio has 18 players on its training camp roster, leaving 3 places open under the current camp limit. And that's where the competition becomes fascinating. The Spurs already have young players competing for opportunities, including two-way players and recent draft picks such as Jacoby Gillespie and Malik Brown, while David Jones-Garcia is also part of the organization's developmental picture. San Antonio's 2026 Summer League roster also included Gillespie, Brown and several other young prospects, showing just how much internal competition exists for developmental opportunities. So Peter isn't walking into an empty roster spot. He's walking into a crowded room. And that could actually be exactly what the Spurs want. Training camp is not just about finding the best 15 players on paper. It's about finding players who fit the team's system, defend consistently, make quick decisions, space the floor and can contribute without demanding the ball. For Peter, the path is pretty obvious. Shoot, defend, move without the basketball, and prove that his college shooting wasn't a fluke. Because if Peter can rediscover the shooting stroke that made him a 45.3% three-point shooter at Liberty, suddenly his profile becomes much more interesting. Imagine a 6'3" guard who can hit open threes, attack closeouts, move the ball and play with energy. That is exactly the type of inexpensive depth that can become valuable over an 82-game season. But there is also a concern.